Hey folks, I'm totally not named Dan, though you can call me that if you want. And since my last deck profile did so well, I figured I'd bring you my latest winning deck. Now, this one, well, the last one did really well at locals, and I felt kind of bad for dunking on everybody with ridiculous Ochako loops. So I figured, let's instead do something a bit simpler and kill everyone in one punch. Because yes, this time, we're playing All Might with his most ridiculous Detroit Smash. And yeah, as it turns out, this deck did even better than the last, so much for not dunking on everyone. But anyway, here to talk about that with me today is my buddy, Cutest Link.
Hello.
Hello. You've not been in my streams for a little while, but I mean, there's no good reason for that, it's just scheduling problems. You know, I'd still like you around.
Oh,
So, figured this was a good way to get a little bit more of you on the channel.
fair enough.
You want to hop on over and take a look at the deck?
Yeah.
Cool.
I did play the deck as well, so.
Yeah, you did play the
it.
deck one week, and admittedly, you didn't have quite as much success with it as me, but this is basically a combo deck, and I built it, so I have a bit of an advantage there.
Also, I'm bad at the game, so that's that.
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
It is, it is.
Okay, so first things first, we're going to look at the character. Do you care to read the character's text to us?
Sure, yes. Form once per turn. Permanently reduce your character's hand size by 1. Draw 3 cards.
Yep, so variable hand size character. And then second ability?
Enhance, commit. Your Fury or Punch attack gains powerful X. X equals the number of cards in your hand.
Right, so big damage based on hand as long as you have momentum.
Indeed, yeah. It's very on brand for All Might.
Yeah. So thing to note about that second ability is that the X in Powerful X is defined at the time you use the ability, not at the time you use the Powerful. That will be significant later. Also worth noting, this is All Might version 1, or 1 dot, and we're playing him on good. I forgot to mention what symbol the last deck was on, but that was on life. So what would you say this character's hand size is then?
If you're going second, it goes as high as, well, 9 basically.
Yeah, the way I play this character, you go second every time, because the combo works better like that. We'll explain in a second.
Yeah.
But also, you don't use the form on your first turn going second, because going second, you have the incredibly good partial Paris mulligan, and you have a bonus card anyway, so you will have 6 cards, and there's a good chance that most of them are foundations. So you don't need to use the form on your first turn, and it means you have a slightly higher hand size on your second turn. On your second turn, you will go down from 5 to 4, but you will have drawn the 5 at the start of the turn, then plus 3 here, so you'll essentially be an 8-hander for your second turn.
Which is insane.
And if you don't reduce your hand size any further, you'll be a 7-hander for your third turn. And if the game goes to a 4th turn, something's very wrong. So yeah, while you have 30 health, you average out at a 7-hander.
That doesn't sound busted at all.
No, it doesn't sound like you should have around 20, does it?
But it's worth noting, even if you do mess up, like I totally did, and go on to rounds beyond that, because of the way it works, like your hand size can go into negatives, so you're basically always at least a free-hander.
Yeah. You can reduce the number below 0 and it doesn't change anything. And I should probably note, you have more cards in your hand than your hand size at the start of the turn. You don't draw cards for the turn, but you also don't discard cards for the turn. You just keep those cards in hand. So if you're above your hand size, sometimes it's worth just holding stuff, not playing anything, not blocking, until you can get your next big attack. So, the big attack that we really want to play is this one, and as you can see, we run 4 copies of it. This is Detroit Smash. And it's worth noting this is a 2-check, so this will define the way we play the entire deck, because we can't rely on having 3s. But what else this is it's an incredible block. We will never use it as a block unless we absolutely have to. Do not be tempted by that number there.
Whoops. I mean, I absolutely had to at one point, but yeah.
But yeah, this is also a 6 difficulty attack. So you are going to need to play a fair few foundations to guarantee it. You're going to have at least 4. Well, 3 in your character, but you don't want to commit your character, so 4.
Mm.
But it's a 6 speed, which is going to make it real hard to block right off the bat. It's 6 damage, which is fine, but it's also got EX2, which means you can buff that speed, and Powerful 2, which means you can buff that damage, or you can use your character to buff it a lot more. You're not going to use that Powerful, really.
Yeah, no. If you use that, something's gone wrong.
Enhance discard 1 momentum, add up to 3 cards from your hand to your momentum. So after you've given this Powerful, you give yourself a whole bunch of momentum, so you can really use that Powerful.
It feels like cheese.
And then All Might Enhance, permanently reduce your character's hand size by 1. So go down another one, draw another 3 cards.
Yeah, why not?
So you want to be doing the All Might Enhance first, obviously, to up the Powerful more, because basically hand size is damage in this character.
Yes.
So you start the turn as a 5-hander, you go up to 8, you go up to 11. Well, you go down to 10 because you have to play this attack, but still. You give this Powerful 10 if you've got no other buffs, and you discard a momentum, and then you gain 3 momentum, and then you use that 3 momentum on the Powerful, and oh look, this is a 36 damage attack. Or, if your opponent's playing a weak character, you only use 2 of the momentum on the Powerful, you go to 26 damage, and then you EX2 as well to make it 8 speed, just to be absolutely sure.
Yep.
This attack is a huge, it's an everything you need it to be package for All Might. It has big speed, it buffs its speed, it gives you the momentum you need, it gives you the card draw you need. The only thing it doesn't do is check well.
They had to balance it somehow, right?
Yeah.
They had to balance it somehow.
Balance it. So this attack is incredible, but we do have one other attack for if this one doesn't work. Let me see if I can bring that in frame like this. Yeah, there we go. And that's Reverse Throw. This comes from the Rival decks. It's a very basic card, but what's good about this is it's both a punch, so it works with All Might's keyword gated ability, and it's a throw, so it will always deal at least half damage. So
it's
if you
not
manage
in a
to
reversal.
it's not a reversal, which is real sad, especially given the name and how it's used in the show. But the fact that this is 2 speed doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter if your opponent blocks this, because it's a throw. You buff this to insane damage, and then your opponent just has to take half of it.
There's ways around throws.
There are a few ways around throws, and if you know that this character is in your meta, you absolutely want to play them. And really, you should be playing them anyway. But we'll talk about that in a moment, because honestly, this character never should have won me locals. There is so much to counter this character in the meta, and everybody should be playing something that deals with this guy, because this guy is insane otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, Reverse Throw is just one of his many ways around what the opponent could do. Because yeah, if they can deal with stupid speed, they can't deal with a throw, and vice versa usually. So this is, if you have lots of momentum, I mean, I managed to buff this to a 54 damage attack one time in this guy. At which point your opponent blocks that, they still take 27. That's, for a lot of characters, still their entire health bar. And yeah, when your opponent takes their entire health on a block, there's very little they could do. That's what Reverse Throw is in this deck for.
True.
I mean, that if this deals 5 or more damage, draw a card. That can also be alright, because that means you throw this out first, and either your opponent blocks it, or you just draw a replacement card so you've lost nothing. Either way, it's made your opponent's life more difficult. They've either taken 5 damage, or they've taken 3 damage, and you've just gone, haha, you've got 1 less card in hand and 1 more card in your card pool, now you can't block my Destroyed Smash. So this can also be a nice little poke attack, just to get things started as well. But we do have another really big poke, and this is probably the worst attack in the deck. This comes in the DLC. But, you know, I wanted him to run at least 12 attacks, so I could guarantee I drew one.
Yeah.
Realistically, Detroit Smash and Reverse Throw are way better, but Mighty Punch just says either your opponent blocks this, or you draw 2 cards. It's a 7 damage as base, so it's not bad. And it has a nice deadlock it has to mill your opponent. That's never going to happen, but, you know, it's a threat
but when
at
it
least.
does, it's nice.
So yeah, this is our attack lineup. You'll notice a big thing with Detroit Smash needs us to have momentum, which would normally mean we'd have to go to turn 3. But we have a way around that, and that's this promo here, which is absolutely ridiculous. This is Capture Evil-Doers. It's a +1 mid block with Breaker 1, so if you draw multiple copies of it, this is an insane block. But we don't want to be blocking too much in All Might, because we want our opponent to hit us and gain that momentum, so we could use this Enhance, which is remove 1 rival momentum. If you did, add the top card of your deck to your momentum and remove this from the game.
Just momentum stealing, basically.
So this just says, I reject your momentum and substitute my own. It is, yeah, it's steal your opponent's momentum. It's extra good against Ochako, but even in general, this just says, if your opponent gains momentum, you gain Detroit Smash on board on your second turn. And yeah, it has a form. We don't use that form because it costs us momentum, and frankly, we don't get enough cards in our card pool that discarding 3 of them matters.
True, yeah. It's also nice that it just tidies itself up after you use it with the Enhance.
Yeah, the fact that it removes from the game means it doesn't clog your card pool, means you can gain the momentum on your first Detroit Smash, and then if your opponent does something, you just abandon the Detroit Smash before you give it powerful, and then you've still only got 1 card in your card pool to play your second Detroit Smash. And if you think it's not likely that we'll draw multiple attacks in a 12 attack deck, just bear in mind the number of cards we draw in a turn. And that's with just our attacks. We do also have a whole bunch of foundations. Yeah, here we go. Passing the Torch is the first one. Any character on Symbol should be running this because it's fantastic card draw, and if you happen to run out of hand, it's even better for blocking because it draws you 2. But in this character, we don't run it for that. In this character, we run it for damage. And pretty much exclusively damage, unless we absolutely need to fish for that Detroit Smash. So yeah, it serves a very different function in this character, but it's still any character on Symbol should be running Passing the Torch.
Card draw is always good, yeah.
Then we have a few others, such as It Can't Be Fixed. This is mostly just stats. It's a 0 difficulty 5 check with a +1 high block, which is real good. But if your opponent happens to stun you, this response kicks in and says, after you commit any number of cards due to your rival's effect, you build the top card of your deck face down. So you get a free foundation. Okay, that's not the card draw foundation I thought it was. I think there might be another one that does that, but...
I still use this once in the locals.
Yeah, I used it a few times because people really want to stun you out so you can't block. But then you get the free foundation, it just makes your attack turn all the better. Now, here we go. Destined for mainstream success. This is the real weird one. If you want to check well, you name attack. And then when you flip this, if the top card of your deck is an attack, you get it to hand. You get an attack off the top of the deck, you're probably checking a foundation. If it's not an attack, oh look, it's a 5 check then. So you can guarantee that your next check will be a 5. Either way, that's fantastic. And that's how most decks use this. But this deck, we also want this as card draws. Anytime we need an extra card in hand for that extra damage, we instead say foundation. And because we run so few attacks and so many foundations, it's almost guaranteed to be a free card. And this is a flip, so we don't even lose a foundation that we can commit for it.
Yep.
Real good. And then was it this one that's our other draw? No, this one just looks at the top card of the deck, so we can either discard a card that we don't want to check, or we can guarantee what we're getting for Destined for mainstream success.
That one's very Mega Man Battle Network.
A little bit. And then celebrity status. If we're not using our momentum for the usual thing, which is rare, we can put one of the foundations that we put into our momentum on the top of our deck to, again, guarantee a check. Or we can put one of our attacks from our momentum on top of our deck during our opponent's turn, so that if they don't have an attack that's going to kill us, so we don't have to block, we can just pick that up on our next turn when we use our form or when we draw for turn. So we can just loop our attacks if they don't deal lethal. So that's that. And then in terms of building foundations, we also have Manly Passionate Guy, which is just response flip after you block with a foundation, you build it. You'll notice a lot of our foundations are really good blocks, so there's that. And then also, this basically just says, if you don't build enough foundations in your turn, don't risk the extra one. Just hold it back, block with it, flip Manly Passionate Guy, you build it anyway. And the other thing is, if you're blocking off zone, that's fine, because we want to take damage anyway. We just want to minimize the damage we take. So a partial block is actually the best option here, making Manly Passionate Guy even better.
True.
Because it's so much easier to partial than it is to fully. But then speaking of blocks, we also run note-taking here, specifically to avoid being blocked ourselves, because this just flips, so it's essentially free, but once per game. Give our punch attack +2 speed. If we get multiple copies of this, we start giving our Detroit Smash 10 plus speed. And so, yeah, note taking just exists to say, no, you're not blocking me, you're taking this lethal.
Yep.
You can, however, also put it on the Mighty Punch to guarantee that 2-card draw if you really want. It's not the optimal play, but sometimes it is. And our final 3 foundations are good impressions. Just makes your next punch slightly easier to check. It's fine, you know?
Mm.
Self-sacrifice, it's just nice stats on a low block.
Oh, that's what it's for, right? I was
Yeah,
wondering
yeah,
why it's in every single
realistically.
deck I've seen. Because, yeah,
And if we
you
get,
need to be really desperate to use that enhance, I think.
if the game goes long, this keeps us at a reasonable number of foundations, stops us going into deadlock if we have to play foundations every turn, and it reduces the damage of our opponent's attacks to keep us alive. Realistically, we don't need that extra +1 damage or -1 damage the vast majority of the time. This is very much just for stats.
Mm.
And finally, also just for stats, Recovery Girl's Kiss. We run 2 copies of this just to round out the numbers of the deck. It's a 0 diff. That's basically what it's here for. The fact that it gains its health is nice, but it's no big deal. So yeah, that's our assortment of foundations. And in fact, that's the entire deck. So if we pop over here, you can see the full list for a moment.
There we go.
Yeah, you'll see it is very grey heavy, and that's intentional. Means we check well almost all the time, but we still don't want to risk going into 3 difficulty too much on a, well, we can risk going into 3 difficulties if we can commit character, but we don't want to go to 4 ever on our first turn if we can help it. So we never want to be throwing down 3 2s, say, so that's why we run so many lower difficulty foundations. But we do want to spam the note-taking, the passing the torch, if we possibly can, because those are the 2 best ones by far.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is just, it's a very silly combo deck.
I'm surprised no one else has gotten to it. It's pretty obvious, just pairing All Might with his major attack, basically.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't seen much else of this deck, because, yeah, it is a fairly obvious deck, but I guess people don't like 2 checks. Because I play this deck,
Yeah,
it's just, somebody sees the attack and just, oh, you're running 2 checks? And I mean, yeah. Have you seen this guy?
In one of the games,
obviously,
I did check 3 of the attacks. 3 of the 2 checks.
yeah, I had 3 of the 2 checks in a row one game as well, still won. Right, so things that deal with this character are, first of all, the big one, Nomu.
Ooh.
Nomu has response commit 1 foundation before the damage step of this unblocked attack reduces damage to 6. So you can stun him out all you want, but because you can commit character as a foundation as cost, this guy can still commit himself and you can't stun himself. So he can always say no to 1 big All Might attack. And in a 12 attack deck, you can't throw enough attacks to beat him out through chip damage.
Yeah.
So Nomu just wrecks this deck. If your opponent plays Nomu, just concede. Genuinely. There is nothing you can do. And then we have Encouraging Training Partner is real annoying. You can play around it, but this just changes the speed of your attack to 4, makes it blockable again. And let's say you're throwing out the throw, or you're throwing out something that your opponent can't fully block. Well, every deck on Symbol should be running this one anyway. Every deck on Symbol should be running Wall Cling. Wall Cling just says no to damage as long as the thing is blocked, regardless of how it was blocked.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite abilities.
Shuts down Shigaraki, shuts down throws, shuts down anything that's partially blocked. It's real good.
I call this the Leaf Shield ability.
And if you have a way to unflip it, it's even better because then you can use it every turn. Just a real good card. And especially in combination with Encouraging Training Partner. These 2 cards are the things that, when you're playing All Might, make you abandon the attack. If your opponent uses them too soon, you can still go into another attack. You can still kill with the next attack because you still have the momentum. But do not spend the momentum on an attack that's been affected by either of these. These basically just say the attack is not going through. Then we have Short Circuit, which just, once you've buffed the attack, returns it to printed damage. There are ways to play around it, but it's difficult. It's not as bad for you as Nomu, but it's still real bad.
It's a shame the Detroit Smash is a charge attack.
Yeah, but they couldn't give it every keyword. It's already EX, Powerful, Fury, and Punch.
My Mega Man senses tingle.
Well, your Mega Man senses will tingle even more when we get the second version of Momo in
I've
the
got it already.
Yeah, because it's in the DLC that just came out, isn't it?
Yep.
There we go then, because she's basically every character you play merged into one. It's great.
And one of them I've designed myself even.
Yeah. I guess I'll link to your link cards in the description.
Sure, yeah.
So Specialist of Sound here is the next one I wanted to talk about. This one gives minus speed, but it doesn't give minus speed the way Encouraging Training Partner does. Because this gives it as a response after the attack is played, so before you use any of your abilities. So it doesn't shut All Might down at all, because it just basically makes him see that the attack has got minus speed and go, oh, I guess this attack's going to get blocked. Better move on to the next one then. And just not waste his abilities on the attack that he's just played. The Specialist of Sound actually doesn't hurt him very much at all. But these are the sorts of things that you should be playing against All Might. Every deck should run at least something of this nature, and there are plenty more things that you can look into do similar effects, but these are a few I wanted to talk about. And yeah, every deck should have an answer to All Might, because if you don't have an answer to All Might, he will just dunk on you. You will just take that 30 damage attack, and there will be nothing you can do. So, do something. Have an answer to this deck. Every deck should be built with an answer to this deck in mind, but at the same time, don't build your entire deck around it. Just have a few pieces to say no to All Might in case he shows up in your local meta. This is, as I said, a set 1 deck, but it is still very relevant and should still be defining your deck building choices even now.
Indeed, yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's it for today. Thanks for joining us, and have fun either punching or getting punched.
Yeah, have fun with all your punching.
See you next time, everyone.
Yeah.
And don't suplex through the tables.
Nope,
Bye.
that's against the rules. Bye.